Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, 7 Things You Can Do Online to Get More Leads, featuring RESAS Marketplace partner, DIB. I'm going to be today's moderator. My name is Rochelle, Digital Content Coordinator at RESAS, and I'm excited to be on today's webinar with DIB and Dan. Today's webinar is going to be action-packed. We have tons of useful tips you can use to turn your real estate website and social media channels into lead-generating machines. I know this for a fact because I had a great chat with Dan a couple weeks ago to help amplify my own website. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping tips. The webinar will run for 30 to 45 minutes with some time left at the end for some Q&A. At this time, we'll be taking the questions from the audience. During the webinar, you can post your questions in the chat box to the left of your screen. If you have any technical difficulties like audio or lagging video, just let us know through the chat box and we'll be happy to assist you. We definitely encourage you to share your thoughts about today's webinar as well as any additional questions that you might have even after the Q&A by tweeting at RESAS and at DIBINC, D-I-I-B-I-N-C, using Twitter and the hashtag REEducation. Again, I'd just like to remind everyone that if for whatever reason you're not able to attend the full webinar, we definitely will be sending out a full audio recording of the webinar to everyone within the next few days. So let me introduce you guys to who DIB is. DIB is a RESAS Marketplace partner of ours, and they help real estate agents grow their real estate website. Simply put, they take analytics and quickly show you where your biggest online opportunities are. DIB also provides you with detailed instructions and videos on how to realize these opportunities for yourselves. DIB has some great key features and tools that they use on their end to help you better amplify your website and social media channels. Some of these features include DIB Answer Engine. With the Answer Engine, its powerful diagnostic tools will scan your site and come up with a customized growth plan that simplifies getting answers for you. There's also DIB Analytics, which is the best part and one of the parts that I use myself for my own website. They don't just measure your data, they transform into real monetary value for your real estate business, past, present, and future. Also, the progress tracker, which keeps track of all of your efforts, and so you can learn how you can grow your business even further and faster. I think I've done enough talking for now. Dan, I'll move it on to you. It's all yours.
Thank you, Rochelle, and I want to thank the team over at RESAS that did a great job setting this up. So really the goal today, and I want to thank everyone for kind of joining us, is to really kind of take a high-level overview of, what I see happening with real estate websites and really deliver, 7 tips that are things that really do work. They're not that hard, and we see it over and over again actually working in different cities with different agents. So I'm not going to be focusing on, anything too complicated. I'm really going to be going through, some best practices and some things that I've observed in space. But I think, really I wanted to start out by kind of framing this, and let's go to the next slide. And, I really wanted to talk about, is your real estate business online? And I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at that question. I think most of us probably have either a website or we've got, subdomain at a brokerage. So, a lot of real estate agent websites are definitely online, but, are we really gathering awareness? And are people really aware that you exist, and are we showing up where people are looking? And this is extremely important when we talk about, 2017 and what we're seeing. Some research from NARS, 41% of buyers now are millennials, so that is, people under 37 years old. And those people are online. They're looking at houses. You can see this mixed statistics. 51% of buyers will be searching online for their new home. That presents a really big opportunity for real estate agents and, making sure that we're showing up in the right places and we're doing the right things. So this is really going to be about how do we contact and reach out and grow our awareness for these folks that are online, that are looking for homes, and how can we do it with some free, simple tools and ideas that are easy. And I'm happy to answer questions at the end. I'm going to move pretty quickly because we've got a lot to cover today, but we set aside a good period of time for Q&A. So I think let's jump into this. And really, 7 things you can do online to get more leads. So the first thing, and this one is really important, is Google Map listings. These are, when you type in a term like Salt Lake City real estate, you'll see that agents appear in what we call the map pack. and that's free to be there. I absolutely, recommend every local business be in there, especially real estate agents. Most of the search terms that we see on Google around real estate actually trigger that map pack, and I can show you kind of an example. But in order to get in that map pack and be in there correctly, number one is we've got to have a website. Now, you can either have your own website or you can have a subdomain at a brokerage, like you work at Coldwell Banker, you work at Keller Williams, and they've given you a page on their website. That's adequate, but we've got to have that asset or that branded page that is about you and your real estate practice. Number two is if you're not in that map pack, and this is something that you can do kind of immediately, is you're going to want to go to Google My Business, and you can literally just Google My Business. And right off the bat, they will help you get added. It's free, and I see a lot of people that are in there, but they haven't done it correctly. So I want to spend a minute here kind of talking about, what I recommend in best practice. So number one is once you're into Google My Business, you get to actually put the title, and that's how you're going to show up in the map listing. And I'll jump to a page that kind of shows that and then come back. I would recommend using your name and mentioning the term real estate agent, and specifically also including the city. That's going to help you rank better right off the bat. So I'll just give an example. If my name's Jim Brown, I would do Jim Brown - Salt Lake City Realtor or Salt Lake City Real Estate Agent. That's a great signal for Google. You get to select the industry. It's going to be real estate agent. And there's some additional things after you've got that correct title tag. They let you upload pictures and videos, so I would highly encourage, uploading at least 5 to 10 images there. Google loves Google My Business. It's their product, so they want to see people using it. Looking at descriptions and hours is the next thing. A lot of real estate agents that I've seen, a lot of the businesses that we work with, they'll put in their hours, and it may be 9 to 5. I would recommend for realtors to put in your hours up to as late as you can do. So if you can answer the phone, and you get to put in whatever phone number you want. So you could have a separate phone for this, or you can use your main phone number. But I would extend your hours. And we've seen that trick work really well in service industries, because most of your competition, if someone's typing in Salt Lake City real estate agent, and especially a lot of the big firms, they're going to show that they close at 5 p.m. And if I want to see a house and it's 7 o'clock at night, and you're the only real estate agent that's open, that's great. You're going to get a phone call. So I always recommend extending those hours as much as you can, and you will get a lot more calls after 5, especially if you're not, the largest agent in the city, but you're the only one open. Secondly, I really encourage reviews, and reviews are extremely important on Google My Business. If you look at most realtors in the map packs, there's very few reviews. You might see 2 or 3, even with some of the larger real estate agents. What I would do is I would really encourage anyone that you're associated with or has had a good experience with you to write a review. And it's as simple as sending them a follow-up email. There's an easy way just to link it to Google where they can actually leave a review, and we can talk more about that during questions and answers. But if you're the agent in the city and you've got 15 4- and 5-star reviews, you're going to stand out to people that are looking at that map pack. It'll also help you improve your rankings in the map pack. So if people are mentioning certain neighborhoods in their reviews, or the city, or specific types of real estate, like they helped us find a ski home in Salt Lake City, those keywords are actually part of how you're going to rank organically in the map pack. So again, reviews are a great opportunity for you to kind of extend your presence in that map pack. And in this space, there's definitely not enough reviews going on. So I would highly encourage everyone that gets into that Google local map listing to include reviews as part of their strategy. The second thing, and I get this a lot with real estate agents, is a lot of agents are home-based or they work with a brokerage. And for home-based agents, you can actually get into Google map listings and you can select a privacy button, and it will not display your address. So you can select your geographic area, and by hiding your address, all they'll see a link to the website and they'll see a phone number. But they won't be able to see your home address. And there's absolutely no one can see it. If you move homes, you can log in and re-update your address. But I would definitely encourage any real estate agent to have their home address in there, have it hidden, and they will be showing up in the map packs immediately. How long does this take? It's about a 10-minute process to sign up. They'll send you out a postcard, or they'll ask you to phone verify that you're a real person, and this is really a business that you do. As soon as you verify it, you'll typically show up in 24 hours, and I've seen amazing results here. A couple little details here is that you'll tend to obviously rank better based on a searcher's geographic location. So if you are in a neighborhood or your home's in a neighborhood and someone's typing in real estate agent for that neighborhood or locale, you'll tend to be the number one result if they're close to you, and as they kind of move further and further away, you'll go down that listing. If you live or work in a rural area, that geography can be huge. If you're in New York City downtown, it may just be a 3 or 4 block radius, but there's a tremendous amount of traffic that's going through Google Local. Almost 70% of searches that have a map listing for service businesses result in a phone call. So if people want to talk to you, they're looking for you, number one thing that I would do, make sure you're in that Google Local map listing. And I'm going to show an example right here. So everyone can see the screen. That's what I'm talking about if you're not familiar, but those are free listings. So the 4 you see at the top, they're actually paying for it. Some of these real estate keywords are very expensive. The 3 below it, that's the map pack. Those are free. If you work at a brokerage, you may find that your brokerage or firm is actually already showing up in there. I would still encourage you to have your own listing in there as well. So it can be the brokerage. You could put your name and say, Jim Brown, Coldwell Banker, Salt Lake City real estate agent or agent. But I would encourage that. That'll generate a lot more leads.
Hey, Dan, sorry, I don't mean to chime in, but I was really just curious. I noticed that you'd mentioned something with Google My Business is the real estate agents can be adding photos. Now, for an agent, is this a listing? Is it a photo of a neighborhood? What would be the best photo that they could be adding to this listing? Or rather, the Google My Business?
I would encourage neighborhood photos that really stand out. So, if you're in a place like Seattle, put in something iconic that people would recognize. If you're in Salt Lake, you can have, images of neighborhoods, Trolley Square. We have these recognizable kind of iconic things. I would make sure that the images are original, so it's not just stock photography. I would always have the first image be a professional image of the agent. People tend to respond really well to seeing other people. It's part of the reason I think Facebook is so successful. So that primary image, a really well done, welcoming image of the agent, I would say probably head to kind of mid-waist level, so it's not too far distant and it's not too in their face. But as many images and, the best images that we can get on there, it's very important. I mean, we're trying to get people to click on that listing, and once they do, we want it to be welcoming, et cetera. Google also really encourages that. So if they see that you're active and you're adding images to your Google My Business and you're getting reviews, that's great. That's showing that Google's doing its job. This is an agent that people want to click on, they like. So that will encourage better rankings as well. But really, really good question. They also let you do videos. If you do have an office location, you can even do a 360 video, show the office, show the team. But the more content you can get on there, the better.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Yep, absolutely. So the next slide is use authority signals to rank for local keywords. And authority signals are a term we use in search engine optimization, which essentially just refers to how we're going to rank in search engines. There's a lot of people out there that aren't in your neighborhood that would like to rank for the real estate terms for your neighborhood, and they make money off of that. Google wants a local real estate agent to rank for local real estate terms. By using authority signals, and I'll kind of explain what those are, you're essentially telling Google, I'm not a company that's just building a lot of content and trying to get a lot of traffic. I'm actually really a real estate agent in Salt Lake City. And whenever I write content or whenever I'm encouraging a professional, a doctor, a real estate agent, whatever it is, you want to let Google know that you're an expert and you're an authority on that topic. So a couple things that are authority signals to Google are if you have any accreditations, if you've got licensing, if you've done any speaking engagements, at the bottom of all the content that you write, there should be a brief bio about you, as well as links to your LinkedIn, to your Facebook, anything that can show that you're an actual real estate agent, you've got credentials. Google is incredibly smart. So if they see that you've got a link to LinkedIn and you're listing that you're a licensed realtor or you're a member of any kind of real estate organizations, chambers of commerce, put all of those down there. Those are all authority signals and will help Google understand that this isn't just content being written by a non-expert. This is actually someone that's active in the field, and you stamp that authority onto that content, onto those pages. And I'll talk a bit more about kind of the content that I would encourage. But really, when we talk about real estate agents, there is an infinite amount of content that everyone has in their own neighborhood. And I think one of the big advantages of being a real estate agent versus some of the other industries that we see, really doing content plays, is you folks are out and about. You're out on the streets. You know what's going on in these neighborhoods. You know what the fun activities are. You know what new restaurants are. And when we're talking about content creation and what to stamp with that authority, we really want to make sure that, you're putting relevant stuff up there, it's fresh, it's useful, and that's the kind of content that's going to rank. And we'll go a bit more into that in a minute. But really, just remember that you are an authority on this subject, and we want to make sure that you're getting credit for being an authority. So a couple takeaways here is, really looking at, sorry, I jumped ahead. The next one I want to go through real quick is standing out on social media. And this is really kind of like what are the best practices that I'm seeing on social media with real estate agents and what I'm seeing generate the most leads. So there's always a lot of debate for Facebook, Instagram, et cetera. Should you have a separate account for your real estate or have it be your personal one? That's always a personal decision. I found that with most of the agents that we work with, it's very useful to have a separate account with you as a real estate agent being on that account and posting as a real estate agent. I found that, most of the real estate agents that we work with, they tend to post a lot of listings around, I got a new listing, here it is, and it becomes a bit tiresome in their personal feed. I think it's far better to encourage the personal folks over to your Facebook kind of professional account and then really dedicate that one to blogging and posting. And this first image we have up here about creating a content calendar, this is really important. I always recommend doing at least 2 posts a week and making those posts, timely and relevant. But actually try to put that into a calendar schedule. I know we're all really busy, and I see a lot of that falling down. But these millennials, when we're talking about they're researching an agent, they're looking on Facebook. They want to see, is this an agent that has a lot of likes? Are there a lot of followers? Are they up to date? And this is where they're finding their real estate. So they are looking for real estate, looking for ideas. And if it doesn't seem like you're active on Facebook, they're not going to think that you're going to be very active promoting their listing. So if you generate a content calendar and you really demonstrate that you're committed to social media and you're posting regularly, that's going to help a lot with that consistency and just make it look like you're a very active agent, you're dialed in with social media, and you're doing great posts, and there's not 3-month kind of delays between posts. The next thing that I would talk about is, yep.
Hey, Dan, sorry, I'm a little bit curious. Being a content person myself, I know it's daunting to really even sit down and have the time to come up with a content calendar when you still have the day-to-day. So, thinking about a real estate agent that's showing homes, trying to get new leads, running a business, what tools can they use to create a content calendar? Are there tools that you would recommend?
There's a lot. I mean, the very most basic one is whatever calendar that they're using, be it Google or be it a paper calendar, put it in there. And you can put in recurring events. And I would look, and Facebook actually has great analytics, which will show when most of your followers are on Facebook. And I would take a quick look at Facebook analytics for your existing page. And I would say schedule around the times that most of your followers are in, and then just set that as a recurring event. And I think it really is worth it. So I know it's a lot, and it might be, a half an hour, every other week or every week, but I think that it's going to pay off, and it's really that consistency. I found that when there isn't a content calendar and we are busy, it tends to get pushed aside. And, a lot of agents, there is content that comes from, either a brokerage or a firm that they work for. That's pretty used content. So it's already been used a lot. It's either slight variations of kind of existing content. It's not usually something that, I personally would want to read. What we really want to talk about posting is, really interesting local content. That's the best thing that a real estate agent can be posting. So if there's, a new park in the neighborhood, if they want to review a dog park or do something like that, really engage the community. But we want them, a real estate agent, to really be a content provider for the areas that they're servicing. There's a lot of tools out there, Social Baker, Sprout Social, Agora Pulse, that can actually help and set up those calendars. I can talk about those a bit more in the Q&A. But they do let you, if you've got, one day a month that you can set aside a couple hours, you can actually get all of your posts done for that month, schedule when they're going to be released, and then not worry about it for a month. So there's a lot of tools out there that will let you kind of consolidate that if you don't want the weekly reminder and you just want to sit down and knock out an entire month's worth of posts at once.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
Yep, absolutely. The next thing that I'd recommend is really boosting some of your content. And Facebook's changed a lot in terms of what your audience sees. So if you're actually posting to your followers and you've spent some time and you've built up a bunch of followers and you include a link in that post and it's perceived as more of a business or marketing post, which we're almost always going to do if we're trying to get leads, Facebook is only going to show that post to 2 or 3% of your followers. They want you to pay money. Now, they've made it cheap, and there's a boosting feature that everyone's probably seen when they actually do a post. And I would always recommend, if you're going to take the time to actually do a post and have it be thought out, to go ahead and boost that. And, depending on your number of followers, it might be from $5 to $20. But that's really going to engage a lot more people. It's going to get a lot of people seeing you. And it's probably one of the cheapest marketing things that if you put the work into actually doing a post, like let's make sure some people see it, let's get more followers, and Facebook will extend your audience a bit. So when you're actually doing that boosted post on Facebook, you can either do it just to exactly who you're actually is already following you, or you can ask Facebook to kind of extend it out a bit. And that means they're going to be looking for people that are similar to who's already following you, and they're going to be sending that post out to them as well. So I always recommend boosting posts, especially posts that you're especially proud of if you put a lot of effort into. So this tip I think is really important, and we talked a little bit about quality content, but really when we're talking about leveraging quality content to grow your website traffic faster, this one is something that's long-term and it takes a bit longer, and I want to give everyone kind of an example. So here in Salt Lake City, which is where Div is located, fantastic real estate website. It's saltyhomes.com. It actually used to be a lot better. I think it might have gotten sold, but the real estate agent behind that website, he really made an effort early on of talking about all the different neighborhoods in Salt Lake City. And we've got neighborhoods, and they have their monikers, 9th and 9th, Sugar House, Milio. We've got a whole bunch of different neighborhoods. And he really added a lot of content into those neighborhoods, and he did it over time. And I've watched that website's traffic go up to over 5,000 people a month that are searching for neighborhoods. Where do they want to live? What are they looking for? And I think that this is where we really get into the advantage that everyone on this webinar has over anyone else that's trying to rank for those local terms. And I want to show the next slide. So this is an example from Salty Homes. So you can see that this gentleman, you can see the traffic. It's fantastic. But you can see that this gentleman, and let's go back to the neighborhood. He really identified what are all the neighborhoods that we want to talk about, and then really added a lot of unique content to each one of those pages. A lot of it isn't there anymore with the new buyers, but that was really an impetus for that traffic to start. So, when you're looking at, what are the best neighborhoods to live in Salt Lake City, that's a great article. That's something that as a real estate agent, I can really sit down and talk about all the different neighborhoods and make them keyword rich. So talk about buying a home. You can interview people, you can take pictures. All of that content is going to be incredibly powerful, and Google loves content. So for me, really building a website and expecting to have a lot of organic traffic, this is one of the biggest things that you can do, and you're already basically doing it. So you're out talking to buyers, you're talking to other real estate agents, you're in the scene, and I would recommend always having a camera with you, taking pictures, taking notes, talking to your buyers, following up with them afterwards, seeing what they like about the neighborhood, even potentially interviewing them, putting the pros and cons of each neighborhood. But really, that type of content and the fact that as a real estate agent, you're living in it daily is constantly being created. It just needs to be put into the website and laid out on paper. And really, in 2017, a couple other content things, our videos are huge. A lot of people are consuming videos. If I'm looking to buy real estate in Park City, Utah, how great would it be to have a 2 or 3 minute video by a real estate agent really kind of showing me the different neighborhoods in Park City, where the stores are, what it looks like. Like that's content that I want to consume if I'm coming from New York and I want to move into a new neighborhood. That type of content tends to rank really well too. There's things with videos like SDM markup and more complex SEO things, but even just getting that content on there is going to be fantastic. And this content is also good to share on Facebook. So as you're putting it on your website, when you're especially proud of an article or something you talked about in the neighborhood, go ahead and share that on Facebook. So you kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone. So this one's really, really important in 2017. We do analytics for about 2.5 million websites, and this fall, globally, there's actually more mobile traffic on smartphones than there are on desktop. When I'm talking to people that want a new website or we're helping them rebuild a website, I'm actually mobile first now. So there's more traffic that's going to be seeing that website on a mobile phone than on desktop. So really mastering your mobile website is absolutely critical. And I want to go through a few of the key things here. First thing that I would recommend that everyone does is take out your smartphone and take a look at your website. And really click around it. Is it easy to call you? Do I know why you're the perfect real estate agent for my needs? But take a look at your website. Go out in bright sunlight with it. Take a look at it when you're driving. And this first bullet point I have here, speed, speed, speed. This is so critical in 2017. This affects your rankings. It affects the usage. It affects if people are going to click on your website, click through it. You know, people now on their smartphones are out and about. They're walking through a neighborhood. They see a house they might want to see. If your website isn't blazing fast, if you've got, you know, a lot of heavy images or CSS code, number one thing I do is say, let's make that website really, really fast. Google has an excellent speed checker. If you actually Google Speed Checker, you can run your website through that. It'll give you a bunch of tips. It'll tell you how you kind of stack up. But you want Google to know that you've got a very powerful website and it's very fast and there's no hesitation if someone's loading it when they're not directly connected to Wi-Fi. Second thing I'd say, I see this a lot, is, you know, make sure your phone number is clickable. And this seems really obvious, but with so many people on smartphones, a lot of folks that have had, you know, a landing page or a website that's, you know, more than a couple years old, your phone number may not be clickable, and those millennials now are so used to actually doing everything on their smartphone that if they pull up your website, and hopefully they're not driving, but let's say they are, and they want to click on your phone number, they want to click on your phone number. So, you know, let's make sure those phone numbers are clickable, and it also gives you the opportunity to have some analytics, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. The other thing that I would say here is really having calls to action. So this goes along with the clickable phone number, but, you know, what do you want your visitor to do? Do you want them to browse for real estate on your website? Do you want them to call you? You really have to tell visitors what to do, and it can be pretty dramatic once you tell them what to do. So, you know, do you want a lead form on there? Do you want the phone number? Do you want them to be pretty passive and just look at your listings? But really have an idea of what your macro or big goal is for your visitors, and make sure that when they're coming to your website on a desktop or on a mobile device, that goal is still really clear. A lot of times I will see on mobile devices that, you know, the call to action or the form that they fill out to get more information, it might be at the very bottom of a long scroll down, and that's going to turn people off. So understand what your goal is. You know, have other people look at your website on their smartphones, get their feedback, see what they say. There's nothing like, you know, friends and family or, you know, anyone that you know, you can say, hey, you know, when you look at my website, what's your impression? Do you like it? Are you ready to call me? Is there something missing? But that kind of feedback can be very powerful, and make sure they do it on a smartphone, because a lot of your traffic, probably over 50%, is going to be accessing your content and your website via the smartphone. This one's really important, measuring and testing to get more leads. You know, really when we talk about, you know, analytics, and that's what we are at our core as an analytics company, but a lot of what we do is A/B testing and really understanding what are the visitors doing on my website. You know, are they engaging with it, you know, how I want them to engage with it. And, you know, correctly installing analytics and spending some time to understand it is going to give you a lot of insight into how your visitors are responding. We see a lot of websites, for instance, where 60, 70, 80% of the people are going to drop off on the home page. If I go ahead and I make a few adjustments and I maybe change my description, or I say I'm a specialist in these neighborhoods, or if I've won any awards recently, if I add those, I'll immediately see what the effects are. So within a couple of days, I can go back and see, was that something that was good? Was that something that was actually increased the bounce rate? And by bounce rate, I mean someone comes to that page and they immediately leave. So if I don't have analytics, I'm not looking at it at least kind of on a weekly basis, I'm flying a bit blind. And that's, you know, Div does a really good job of, you know, providing analytics, and that's kind of our goal is, you know, automating that and letting you know if we're detecting that, hey, your bounce rate's really high on these pages. You need to fix it, and here's some tips. But, you know, there's free tools out there as well, like Google Analytics and, you know, StatCounter, Pewit. Any kind of analytics, I would just recommend, you know, having analytics on every page, setting up goals, and doing the A/B testing.
Hey, Dan, before you move into the next with UTM tags, I know what A/B testing means because I'm in the marketing world. For a real estate agent, what does that mean? What does that look like? And how would they go about doing that on their own?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I'll give you an example of it. There's a lot of stuff out there like Optimizely, Instapages, that will actually let you test different pages at the same time against the audience. So essentially what they do is they'll present two versions of your home page, and they'll randomly select which page a visitor is going to see, and then you can tell Optimizely, I want to optimize for people clicking my phone number. And after you have a certain number of visitors, Optimizely is going to say, hey, when you have the red background with your picture in the front, that page has a 4% higher click-through rate on that phone number. And you can set up a lot of different experiments. if you're getting a lot of traffic to your website, it's definitely something you want to do. If you're not getting a lot of traffic right now and you're trying to grow traffic, I would encourage getting up to 100, 200 visitors a month at least to the website before I really start A/B testing. That's when it starts to get really effective. Instapages is a really great tool that's out there, and Instapages lets you set up landing pages very easily. So if anyone on this webinar is doing PPC advertising or social media advertising, you may just be sending them to your home page, and you may do a lot better if you're actually sending them to a landing page or a specific page. So if I'm doing PPC advertising, which is paid advertising on Google, for instance, and I'm ranking for Sugar House real estate, rather than sending them to my home page, which may be about the whole valley or the whole city, I want to send them to a landing page that's specific about Sugar House. So the second they click on that advertisement, they're on a landing page that's talking about whatever that search query was. So it's going to talk about Sugar House, why I'm the specialist in Sugar House, and that landing page is typically going to do a lot better than the home page. Now with a tool like Instapages, I can deploy 10 different pages that are all on Sugar House real estate that have slight variations, and again, like Optimizely, I can see which one's performing the best, which one has the most people filling out the lead forms and clicking on the phone number. And really, as you get more and more into traffic, it just becomes more and more important to make sure that you're continually kind of optimizing and understanding how visitors are reacting and what's the best thing that you can be presenting to them. And real estate traffic is worth a lot. So if you're doing the things that we're talking about, you're getting in the local map pack, you're generating content, you're starting to see more organic traffic, every single one of those visitors, if you were paying for them, could be anywhere from $3 all the way up to $30, $40, $50, depending on how specific those search terms are. That's really valuable traffic. You don't want that traffic to be coming to your website and exiting without calling you or filling out a form. And A/B testing is really a valuable tool that lets you kind of dial that in. When we talk about UTM tags, this is a little bit more advanced. And UTM tags essentially, this is via Google Analytics. StatCounter calls it something different. Pewit calls it something different. But whatever analytics you're running, they're going to let you basically generate tags that you can put wherever you want, and you can specify what that means. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If I were to send out an email to all the people that I've gathered their emails over time, I'm going to want to include a UTM tag in that email, which is essentially going to track the visitor, and they'll show up on my Google, and it's going to say, okay, these guys came from that email that I sent yesterday, and this percentage of them clicked on my call button. So really, UTM tags is kind of a next level of analytics, and if you're getting a lot of traffic, I would highly recommend really starting to dig down into analytics and setting up things like UTM tags, goal tracking, and segmenting your visitors. Facebook Analytics is great. It keeps getting better. A lot of people on here have probably seen Facebook Analytics, but if you haven't looked at your Facebook Analytics, I'd recommend everyone take a minute and do that. It shows a lot of different insights. Div does this as well. We actually sync with Facebook, so we'll pull in your Facebook Analytics if you're using Div and clarify some of the things that we see. But really, what you want to look at is, how are people engaging with your post? Are they liking it? Are they unfollowing you? Are they giving you a thumbs up? Are they commenting? It's easy to set up in Facebook Analytics alerts as well. So if someone comments on something you say, you can immediately kind of jump in and comment back, no matter how many accounts you have. But I would definitely recommend spending some time and not just looking at the website analytics, but also understanding the Facebook Analytics. And it really is probably going to be 20, 30, 40% of your visitors. And Facebook's almost as important now in terms of just overall search volume and overall web traffic as Google. So, your website, we want to make sure you're doing a good job on your website. You've got analytics. But your Facebook page is also something that people are going to be accessing a lot, and we want to understand that it's going to be successful. People are liking the posts. If we do a post that people don't like, what do we learn from it? Let's not do a post like that again. So this one's important. I want to go through a couple of mistakes that I see a lot of times occurring in this space, and I think let's just kind of jump right in here. But the first thing is I'll see a lot of agents that just post their listings on their social media, or they tend to post them a lot. And there's kind of a good way to do that, and there's a really tough way to do that. And everyone on here probably has seen those posts on Facebook. So I've seen agents be very successful when they're posting about a house that they just got, and they're actually really telling a story, and they're trying to make an emotional connection to that house. So if there's something really special about a listing, like an architect or the actual history of the house, or those types of features that actually make it more of a story than just kind of a sales pitch, I'd highly recommend, adding to that listing, not just kind of a generic post, but really try to figure out an emotional connection there and adding. And that's something that I would say probably, I don't know if it's 90% of agents, but it's certainly a lot. So really, when you are posting your listings, and I do think that's a great idea, try to do it with a story and have really good photography there and really connect to your audience's emotional response. Houses are pretty interesting, and most houses, like the old saying goes, have a pretty good story to tell. So rather than just saying, the price and square footage, try to really capture that story. Those are the ones I see getting shared. They get passed around a lot. People get really excited about it. Almost every house has something unique that's worth talking about, whether it's location, history, like I said, or something else. Second thing is if you do the posts, your listings, which I do recommend, you really want to offset that with a lot of posts that aren't salesy. And those would be kind of the content posts that we were talking about. So if you're going to post about a listing this week, make sure it's got the story, but I'd also want you to kind of offset that with, one or two posts about the community, a new restaurant that opened up, a reason why people would want to move to the neighborhood, some kind of zoning change, whatever you can do. But just remember, not just to post listings on that Facebook page. It gets really kind of tiresome to the users, and we want to keep it interesting and have a story that, you're someone in the community that's up to date with everything that's exciting and engaging our audience. The posting monthly reports of the state of the market, I see that a lot as well. This is typically when your brokerage or firm will send you kind of a canned thing to send out to social media. A lot of people are interested in there, and I actually see people unfollowing that sometimes. I don't encourage you not to do that. I would just say if you can put your own spin on it and actually have some really good comments above that post. So if you say, hey, look, here's my summary, blah, 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 and really talk about how it relates directly to your community, your market, maybe some specific examples. But just posting a state of the market is usually going to be too big and too broad, unless maybe you're a commercial real estate agent and this is really information that your audience wants without your commentary. But I'd always recommend including, along with those kind of generic monthly reports, really your take on it and how it's impacting the neighborhoods that you're seeing. The forgetting to retarget ads, I think this is really important. And I want to talk about retargeting real quick. So retargeting is probably one of the cheapest things that everyone on this webinar could go do right now. There's a whole lot of companies that do this, everything from AdRoll to Facebook. And essentially what this does is you drop a little piece of code on your website, and it's very easy to do. And now when a visitor comes to your website, that's a visitor that you already know is interested in real estate in your market. And it's much more expensive to go advertise and try to find that person than it is just to retarget to them. So what the retargeting is once you put that code on your website, and you can now follow that visitor around and continue to serve up banner messages. So if I'm coming into your website and I'm looking for what's the best neighborhood in Salt Lake, and I come into that web page, I now know that that person is very interested in buying a home in Salt Lake City. They may exit my website, they may not call me, but essentially what I want to do is really look at and continue to look at my banner and my recent news. So by retargeting, you're going to follow that person around for 30 or 60, 90 days, and it's very cheap. It's about $100 per 1,000 visitors to your website. So it's much, much cheaper than that $30 to $50 you might be seeing with PPC or other advertising methods. You've already got them. They're somewhat of a captured audience. Let's make sure that you're following them around with retargeting and banner ads and staying top of mind. Even on Facebook, if you're retargeting and they go back to Facebook, they're going to see in their feed actual mentions of you and be continually reminded that you're one of the best agents that serves that neighborhood or community. Not asking for reviews, and we kind of touched on this. I see this a lot in real estate. It's amazing to me how few reviews there are. I think in 2017, as more and more people kind of get on board with the importance of reviews, that we'll see more agents doing that. But I think everyone on this webinar could really get probably a head start in their community by asking for reviews. And you want good reviews, obviously, but really reaching out to people and making it easy for them to review after you've done it. And I know traditionally, having bought a few homes, I'll tend to get, a gift at the close or whatever it is. I would be very happy to review my real estate agent, a couple days after that, saying, if you had a great experience with us, please click here and leave us a review. If you've got that Google My Business account set up like we were showing earlier on in the presentation, that's all you need, and those reviews are actually now going to sync with your Google My Business and show up on all your listings and on your website. And that's really powerful. If someone's new to a city and they're looking for a real estate agent, I want to click the guy with 14 5-star reviews and I'm going to bypass those folks with no reviews. So I would definitely encourage everyone to begin asking for reviews as soon as possible. The next one is blogging without SEO and keywords. We see this not just with real estate agents, but across the service industry. Blogging to me is blogging, and you should really be using your blog for kind of timely, relevant news. I don't see blogging as the most effective SEO tool because it's a flat hierarchy. So every time you do a blog, it's essentially the same strength as the mixed blog, etc. I also don't encourage, overstuffing keywords or over-optimizing blogs because they're really reaching out to your audience, making sure that everyone that visits your website knows that you're active, you're blogging, you're talking about things. But when we talk about search engine optimization, and for instance, when I was talking about the neighborhoods and having content on every neighborhood in your community, if you disperse that via your blog, you've now got a really kind of flat, 12 blog posts that isn't really going to be optimized. So what I would really recommend doing is, going down to the bottom of your homepage and saying, learn about Salt Lake City or learn about Denver. When they click on that, they're now going to see a whole lot of different topics, and those are static pages. You can add content. You can continually add content. They're not going anywhere. They're not the blog posts. So those are the pages that are actually going to rank the best for the organic searches. You will rank for blog posts with SEO, and they will generate organic traffic. It's just not as effective as actually siloing your content and really making sure that the most important content is close to your homepage. And as you get down into neighborhoods and maybe some other types of smaller keywords, that's going to be further away from your homepage. And building silos really lets you control where that content is going to be on your website and how much power you want to get to that content. Next one is really overestimating the impact of digital marketing. And I think for a lot of agents, and when I kind of look at what they do, they'll kind of jump in maybe and do a little bit of Facebook, or maybe they'll add a couple blog posts, and they don't see kind of this big rush of traffic, and as a result they get a little bit frustrated with it and they may not stick with it. Everything that we've talked about so far, other than a couple of the tools, is free, and anyone in your office or yourself can do it to build that online presence. I will say that other than the map pack listing, which is immediate under 2 weeks, everything else we're talking about is kind of a process. But when we look at the example of Salty Homes, that was a local real estate agent. Now they're getting over 5,000 people a month, and that content on the website, it took a year to generate. So if you kind of set a content schedule and you say, all right, every week I want to add a page to my website about a neighborhood or a search term, what are the best neighborhoods to live in, et cetera, it builds up. And even if those pages are only getting, initially, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 visitors a month, as you start to get 20, 30, 40, 50 pages and your website starts to get stronger and stronger, you're going to start to see a lot of organic traffic coming in there, and you'll start to notice that when someone types in, whatever terms they're looking for, homes, ski homes, everything. Every community has a lot of traffic around real estate. So I would say really stick with it, and this goes to the bottom point. If you've tried Facebook and you haven't had the best results, if you've tried advertising on Facebook, they've gotten a lot more effective. They've released a lot more data. If you've tried to kind of add a few backlinks or maybe talk to a few blogs and you haven't seen the results, it's probably because you really need to stick with this, but the payoff is huge. You're going to own this website. You're going to own all this content. You're not paying for it, and Google will deliver a lot of traffic if you follow these strategies. So real quick with us, so Div is an analytics company, like I said. We're offering, and this is with Resas, free 30-minute consultations. So anyone has any questions about kind of anything we've talked about on this webinar, is unsure about their analytics or kind of next steps, or needs any help with it, we've got a lot of digital marketing experts over here and consultants. They'd be happy to talk with any Resas members. You can either visit this link, you can call us directly, make sure you mention that you're coming from Resas. This is kind of a very special thing we're doing with Resas, but yeah, we'd love to build continue the conversations with folks that need some additional help, and it really is a free 30-minute consultation. I want to see what's going on in the space and how we can help people and how we can get you guys kind of aligned and moving towards this target of a lot more digital traffic and online traffic.
Awesome. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. And just to reiterate what Dan had mentioned, I really would encourage everyone to, go to that landing page and even give Dib a call, mention that you're with Resas, and get yourself a free consultation. I know personally I called Dan a few weeks ago, and I was a little bit frustrated with my content in terms of the traffic that was coming through. So I just sat down with Dan, and I asked, what can I do that could improve this website a little bit better? And by the end of the consultation, I was left with so much information that, it was easy enough for me to just sit down and figure out, okay, how do I want to drive more traffic to the blog using these tips that Dan had provided. So I definitely encourage everyone to do the consultation if they can. We will be sending a recording of the webinar, which will have all of the details within that email. So please just look out for that. Dan, I'm going to move into the Q&A section of the webinar, and we do have some really good questions from the audience members, one of which really stood out to me, and this is from Suha Matthews. They would like to know how well would Instagram ads work for leads? And I personally wondered this myself because Instagram can be so daunting, and there's millions of people that are actively using Instagram per month. So how well would that work if I want to draw leads to my business?
Really, really good question. So when we advertise on social media for clients, we tend to really heavily do Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is Facebook, so you can deploy those ads directly through Facebook. I typically test really quickly. So if I'm going to run a social campaign, and they do work well for real estate agents, I would be using Facebook as the platform, and I would be specifying that I want those ads to show up on Instagram and Facebook. One thing I'd recommend for both of those is probably turning off the extended audience. I haven't seen really great results with extended audience with real estate agents. And what the extended audience is when someone's on Facebook or Instagram and they're actually clicking through a link, a lot of times your ad is going to show up on someone else's website, not on their Instagram feed or Facebook feed. So I would try to keep those advertisements limited to Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, I've seen a lot of good success on both of those platforms, and Instagram tends to be a bit cheaper than Facebook. There's a little bit less competition and bidding for those positions. So I think Instagram's a fabulous place to start. I'd probably recommend doing it, through Facebook and really seeing kind of what the results are across both platforms.
Cool. Now, I've got a really interesting question here from Nikki Benson. She's mentioned that she's tried to do the reviews herself, and by that I'm assuming that she means she's tried to encourage her clients to write a review. But the issue she's running into is that Google prompts everyone to either have an account through Google. So is there a way around this? Because this could kind of be a deterrent for some people. How would Nikki and the rest of everyone that's online get around having people submit their reviews?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's companies out there that Google has relationships with that are aggregators of reviews. Google has cut down dramatically on that in the last couple of years. So, for instance, if someone doesn't have a Google account and you're connected with one of these review-type companies, they will claim that they will put it into Google and they work with Google. I haven't seen those reviews in the last year really popping up. So there isn't much of a way around that. I would say make it as easy as possible, and when you send out that email, literally put a link there for Google, and you can put a link there for Yelp. You can put whatever you want, but I would focus on the Google reviews and not trying to get people to do 7 or 8 reviews. But in that email, I would literally just put a link, and then you basically just have to hope that they do have a Google account and they're going to be logged in. It makes it easy. I haven't seen an easy workaround for this. I see solutions out there, but I don't see them working, so I don't know if I would waste the money on getting some of these review companies to do it. I will say with the email stuff there, if you're concerned about the quality of reviews, there's a lot of companies out there and review-type software that's relatively cheap where it actually will put into that email what we're talking about, and if someone gives you a 3-star review, it actually, or 2 or 1 or whatever you specify, it won't take them over to Google. It will actually divert them and let them leave feedback for you. If they're giving you a 4 or 5-star review, then it actually lets it go through and it goes to Google. So, with larger companies where I see a lot of reviews coming through, like e-commerce companies, et cetera, a lot of times they'll have one of these mechanisms in place that really kind of ensures that they're getting good reviews. I don't know, I don't like when I see all 5-star reviews. I think Google kind of, thinks it's a little bit corny. If they're all really legit and they're well written, absolutely. We've got, a lot of companies and groups that are 5-star. But I think it's okay to have the occasional 4-star review. It's okay to have even a 3-star review as long as you're getting a lot of really good reviews. But there is software out there, but there is no good workaround with the Google My Business and reviews.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. I've got one really great question here from Eric Cunningham, and I've personally written about this myself, and I've had a lot of agents ask me, Facebook business or personal, what kind of page do I want to have, and how much time should I be spending on either one of them?
Yeah, I would highly recommend the Facebook business. The amount of tools, the ability to boost, the ability to advertise, the analytics, it's very much oriented around kind of everything we're talking about. So I really, really encourage that Facebook business. I would say, until you have a good following and a good audience, you don't want to spend too much time. I'd rather see people boosting content and posts, and you can actually boost with the goal of building an audience. But I think once you get that audience engaged, I would say at a minimum if they can do, 2 posts, I would say always respond to every single comment on there. I would also say, if you're out and about, respond to other posts, like comment, mention that you're a real estate agent. There's so many people, every night there's over 110 million, people on Facebook, and it's free. So I would say, if you've got downtime, if you have free time, I would definitely say Facebook's a fantastic place to be. And I would be spending, more of it on Facebook business and really trying to build that up. From the personal side, I think you can kind of selectively pick your best posts and post them on your personal page. You can also invite all your friends to join your Facebook business page. But just because of the tools and the ability to link into advertising, which if you're not doing now, you may want to do down the road, that Facebook business page to me is the direction that I would go.
Thanks, Dan. I've got a great question here from Bridget Morrissey. She wants to know what kind of code do you use to retarget your ads, or specifically any real estate agent can use to retarget their ads?
Yeah, so 2 really good tools. I like AdRoll. AdRoll is fantastic. It works well. It's easy to use. It also has built-in A/B testing, so you can put 7 or 8 different banners. It also works with Facebook, so you're not just retargeting to the websites that they visit, but they're also going to be retargeting to your people that have visited your website's Facebook feeds. So I think AdRoll is a really good one. It's simple enough for anyone to use. You don't have to be an analytics guru. The other thing that I would probably suggest is I really like AdEspresso for advertising on Facebook. It's got a lot of built-in A/B testing, and just to kind of give an example, if you're running an ad on Facebook, AdEspresso will really let you A/B test, the audience, demographics, do they own a house or not, and it will manage all of that for you and even optimize your ads. It's really cheap. I don't know how much it is, but if you're spending very much money on Facebook advertising, I think you definitely want to be using a tool like AdEspresso. And I think for retargeting, AdRoll is simple. It's a really good start. If you're spending a lot of money, there's better solutions, but for probably the vast majority of real estate agents, I think AdRoll would be the ideal kind of retargeting solution.
So with the retargeting ads, is there any code that you're putting onto the back end? Like, is that where UTM tags would kind of come into play if you want to be tracking success?
Yeah, really good question. So when you're doing retargeting, you can get as complex or as simple as you want. So you can do it based on the last page of your website that they visited, and you could have a specific campaign around that, or you can just drop 1 pixel into every page. But for instance, if I have a real estate website here in Utah and I've got a page about ski homes, and I have someone coming into the ski homes page and then leaving, I might want to be serving up a banner ad that talks about ski homes to that person for 30, 60, 90 days. Very cheap, very effective. If I've got someone coming into something about golf courses in Salt Lake and homes on golf courses, I don't want to be seeing the ski ad, so I may do a different banner around, golf homes on golf courses. Now that visitor, because he exited that page, is going to see that banner ad instead of the ski banner ad. At the very least, you can do just a very generic campaign and say, anyone that comes to my website, I want to see a picture of me, Salt Lake City real estate agent, have some great copy on there, and it's easy to do, put in 5 different banners, and within a couple days, you're going to see which one works the best. But you can get dramatic and you can get very technical in terms of retargeting and segmenting the audience. If you're getting a lot of traffic, I would recommend it. And you can show different banner ads based on someone opening up an email, based on how they're clicking through it, how often they come to your website. It can get very complex. I don't want to overwhelm people, so I would definitely say at the very least, I think almost every real estate agent would benefit from just doing the basic retargeting and then making it more complex as they go.
And Dan, I've got one last question here, and this might be quite a burning question for a few of our attendees here in today's webinar. So let's say I don't have my own website. how would I go about starting up? Is there any recommendations that you have in terms of a keyword-rich domain? How do I start my strategy, and where do I start?
Absolutely. So I love when people have this question. That really is kind of the foundation. So I think there's a couple different things. Google doesn't put as much emphasis on the actual URL as they used to. So if I own the domain name, saltlakeCityRealEstate.com, that used to be a really big signal for search rankings. It's not so important anymore. What it does help with is when people actually see that URL in the search results, they go, oh, Salt Lake City Real Estate. I'm going to click on that. If I have a domain name that isn't very click-friendly, so if your average potential buyer or visitor sees a URL and it has really relevant local keywords, they're actually going to be more likely to click on it. Now, if we talk about using the agent's name for the URL versus using kind of a local or regional search term, there's pros and cons to both of those. If you're really trying to build your personal brand, you can do just as well with your name in terms of organic and everything else. If it's something that you may pass on to someone else or exit the space, and you put a tremendous amount of work into building up, that brand name, it may not get the same kind of value that you would have if you had, SaltLakeCityHomes.com. So if you're really going to spend a lot of time and effort and you want to build something kind of beyond your name, I would encourage, really finding something that is going to signal the message to your target audience that you're a real estate website there. You're great. If you think that there may be the chance that you want to go to a different firm or do anything else, really think of that website as a long-term asset because it's something that you're going to want to build over time and not change. Every time you start a new website or start a new subdomain, you're basically having to start all over with everything that we just talked about. So pick a domain name that you know is going to last the duration and be there for the long haul.
That was perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. So that's going to be all for our Q&A session because we're running out of time. This was so content-rich. I want to thank Dan and the DIB team again. I also just want to reiterate to everyone, it's definitely valuable to go ahead and get the free 30-minute consultation that DIB is offering to all of the people attending on behalf of RESAS. Just be sure to let them know that you are coming from RESAS, and we have the URL there on the screen, www.diib.com/RESAS, RESAAS web, WEB1. Again, thank you so much for the call. Dan, thank you for putting this all together. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the content. Just a reminder, we will be sending everything out, the presentation as well as the URL to everyone in an email shortly. Again, thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.